Hey everyone, it's Joe Waxman. Today I want to talk about the three outer planets and the other side of what those planets can represent in the chart and in real life. I recently made a video about Pluto and Scorpio, and I forgot to mention that there's a whole other side to these planets that can get projected out into the world. It's not just about, one side is the person, our personal qualities that we can inhabit when we have these planets aspected in our chart, especially when they're hitting personal points, as already mentioned. But another way they can manifest, and this is not exclusive, it can be both, is through experiences that come into our life. And just to clarify, the more personal planets can usually manifest when they get projected into our life and our life experiences. They come as people. For instance, we can meet people that represent the planets in our life, like the sun can be father, or it can just be like a big person, a sun-like figure, just a very big character. Venus can be a woman, usually. Mercury can be a sibling or a friend. Mars can be also a sibling, older male. Right, Jupiter can be a teacher. Saturn can be a parent or grandparent or an authority figure, kind of like that. And the outer planets don't usually come as people, they come as events often. And each planet will have a different series of events. So let's start with Pluto, because that was the most recent one that I talked about. Pluto, in addition to all the things that I mentioned, which are all still valid, can also come as a source of abuse. It could be sexual abuse, especially Pluto and Scorpio, but not limited to Pluto and Scorpio. You can have Pluto in another sign and still have sexual abuse, depending on how it's aspected, what house it's in, and what other planets are involved. But it can be other kinds of abuse too. It can be anything involving death or tragic events, crises. Pluto can be manipulation, control, power over situations where you're in a situation where another person just has like total control over you. These manifest usually when we can't fully embody what the planet represents in our chart. Say it's heavily aspected in our fourth house, first house, seventh house, 12th house. If we don't take full ownership of the planet, then we're going to project it out into our life to experience that energy in a way that we are still absorbing it. We're trying to integrate it into ourselves. But it may come as a very difficult situation. For instance, Pluto in the 12th house a lot of times can be people end up in prison, because the 12th house is a place of isolation. On the negative side, prison jails are associated with Pluto, with 12th house. And with Pluto, then it's a abusive, forceful, very severe, intense kind of power over situation where you just kind of lose control and lose power. There's too much power, but not where you have the power, where you are being overpowered. But in that way, the purpose of these kind of situations is that we can still learn the valuable lessons that Pluto will teach us and integrate them into our life. You know, if it's in the fourth house, it could be a growing up situation where your parents are just totally controlling and totally, you know, dominating your will. In a rare situations, it could even be sexual abuse at home or from a child. Um, um, if it's in the seventh house, it could be an abusive partner or, you know, dominating, controlling, abusive partner, or again, sexual abuse. Um, Not only sexual abuse, again, it could be things like crises, death, accidents, trauma, tragic events. If it's aspecting the moon, it could be mental illness. I probably did say that about the moon, but yeah, or Mercury, right? Um, in any case, external events that are Plutonian in nature, where you're being dominated, controlled, abused, traumatized. Um, Now, if it's more like a quick event, like an explosion, like all of a sudden, like a car accident, like out of the blue, right? That usually has an element of Uranus in it. Uranus can come as accidents and trauma that comes from like sudden events, like just things that you don't expect that happen all of a sudden, like bam, you know, like a car accident or you know, an explosion or just like sudden death, such just anything sudden. Just for instance, I'll tell you my own experience. I have Uranus on the ascendant, and if Uranus is strongly aspected in your chart, even if it's in good dignity, there can still be some very difficult situations. I have Uranus in Scorpio on the ascendant. And during the Pluto transit, three things happened in the 80s. Pluto had a long transit over Scorpio, because Pluto was in Scorpio, and it transited over my ascendant, over my Uranus. Three things that happened. First of all, I cut my knee down to the bone. Now that activated my 10th house, because 10th house Capricorn knee, with Mars and Saturn in there. So cuts and bone. Saturn is bones, Mars is cuts, and the square from Pluto triggered that event. Then next, very sadly and tragically and traumatically for me, a train hit and killed my brother. Again, the conjunction with my ascendant, Uranus, Pluto, Scorpio, square to Mars and Saturn. And, you know, there could be other triggers as well. For instance, you know, opposite Chiron. Chiron's at 0 degrees Taurus. And Chiron does have a connection to Virgo, which is my 11th house. And, you know, that triggered also Mercury, which is conjunct Algol in the 7th house, and Hades, which is the Uranian point, Uranian astrology point. So, you know, it's hard to figure out exactly, at least for me, why, you know, what and why, and you know, all the nitty gritty details of how it happened, but vaguely I can kind of make sense of it. Plus 7th lord's in the 8th house, 8th lord's in the 7th house, so it triggered that event anyway. And then the third thing is that I broke both my arms in 3 places, both wrists and this elbow here, once during that Pluto transit. So yeah, so when you combine then like Pluto and Uranus together, that's like severe accidents, right? I don't mean to scare anyone, but this is the reality of the situation, that these things can happen. So yeah, Uranus is definitely going to be accidents, sudden events, sudden accidents, and trauma as a result. Pluto and Uranus can both be trauma. Neptune, I find Neptune is a bit different. Neptune can definitely be mental illness, drugs, alcohol, lies, deceit. For instance, I have Neptune opposite the sun and Venus, and I find that I do get taken advantage of easily. Like, it's easy to find people who will lie to me. I know I said that the outer planets don't represent people, and but they can represent situations that involve people. I get taken advantage of easily. I really attract people that would lie with me, cheat me, steal from me. That's Neptune. It also can represent people who just have an overly idealized image of me, on the positive sense. People are just like, have the wrong picture of me sometimes, like think I'm, something way like, greater than I am, or way worse than I am. I get demonized. Anyway, Neptune can distort people's views of you when that's aspected, depending on how it's aspected. Neptune can obviously distort the person's views as well. You become dreamy, delusional, or really idealizing things, or the opposite, like overly, fearful, demonizing. It can attract, drug, alcohol situations to you. It's weird. Like, sometimes I'll walk down the street in Philadelphia and people come up to me and ask me for drugs. I'm like, I don't sell drugs. Like, go get your crack and heroin somewhere else. Like, I don't have. That's not what I do. Like, they're like, oh, I need some drugs. Can you give me some crack? Like, no. Go get some help. That's kind of like Neptune opposite the sun, I think. Because yeah. So anyway, these are the other sides of the outer planets, and it can happen with any of the planets. Like, if you can't embody your Mars, you're gonna meet like very Martian influences in your life. People being very Martian towards you, like aggressive, making you work hard, do stuff. Well, work hard is more Saturn, but being very aggressive, physical, or like, Saturn can make you work your ass off. A lot of times it's hard to embody Saturn, especially if your Saturn is not well aspected. People with a really good Saturn, like Saturn in Capricorn or Aquarius, naturally embody their Saturn more easily, so they don't have as much Saturn difficulties. But like a Saturn, like I have Saturn in Leo, so I often meet Saturnian situations that are just like kicking my butt, like making me work hard, especially because I have Saturn conjunct Mars by 10 degrees, but still, it's like making me really work, and Mars is my ascendant lord, so like I have to work hard, like physically, a lot in my jobs and stuff like that, like way harder than I would have otherwise. So Saturn can be projected, Jupiter can be projected. You might meet Jupiter, usually is more beneficial. So like, a teacher or a beneficiary, somebody who's helping you out, somebody who's like older, more mature. It's gonna, give you, help you in some way or another. Things like that. Right. So yeah. I mean, all the planets can be projected hourly, but I think I just, forgot to mention that side of things. So I wanted to make a video about how, if you have Pluto in Scorpio or Pluto in any sign, then it's not just about your own personal power and strength. Sometimes it's about abuse and death and crisis. And that's a very Plutonian Scorpionic thing. I've known many Scorpio, not just Pluto and Scorpio anything, Scorpio Sun, Scorpio Ascendant, Scorpio Moon, who lived through very tragic events, right? It's Pluto. Plutonian influence is there, and it's just like causing real tragedy. So, that's it for this video. Yeah, just be aware of things that happen to you in your life. That can also be very strong, like your personal planets and then transits or progressions or yearly perfections. Generally speaking, those are the ones to look at. Solar returns. Anyway, guys, hope you found this interesting. That's it for now. If you'd like to book a reading, go to my website, macroastrology.com, or email me at macrogoldmachine@yahoo.com. Like, subscribe, and share. You know the thing. All right, guys. Thanks.